Welcome to the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education regular meeting on April 26th. We are now in open session. If I could ask Dr. Asplin to conduct the first order of business tonight.
Absolutely, thrilled to do it. I'm actually going to walk over to the podium. So. Hello, everybody. As we are all aware, we have been conducting the principal search for Lake Bluff Elementary School for the past several weeks, and I'm happy to announce that the happy candidate is here tonight, and her name is Shelly Overman. Now, this is impromptu, so I would ask Shelly just to give a brief hello to the cameras. You have lots of adoring fans out in their homes.
Okay.
So just give a brief introduction to who you are, and we're just so very happy to have you aboard. And welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, as Dr. Asplin said, I am Shelly Overman. I'm coming to you from Gibson City, Illinois, and actually I grew up in Northwest Iowa. I have a husband, Terry, who is here, and my oldest daughter, Molly, who is here. I have a younger daughter, Sydney, and a son, Mark Michael. And they are very supportive of this change. I'm very excited, and I want to say hello to all the kids from Lake Bluff Elementary School, and I'm very excited to get started with the staff and the parents and the community members, but especially your kids. Thanks a lot.
Great. Shelly, welcome.
Shelly does have a long drive, so we asked her to go first. So welcome, Shelly, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, Shelly.
Thank you, Shelly.
And family.
Drive safely. Nice meeting you all.
All right, the next item would be presentation, Lori Brown and technology. Do you want to introduce this? Or?
Certainly, yes.
Okay.
I'd be happy to. We have come on up, Lori, and go ahead and get started. We have asked Lori Brown to come and present the executive summary of a technology study that she has been leading for the past several months. And Lori is going to give as brief a presentation as she can regarding what the technology evaluation program has been, what they've found, and what they're recommending. So take it away, Lori.
All right. Well, first I will tell you that we put together a committee, and we had representatives from our primary, our upper elementary, our middle school classroom teachers, as well as special education teachers and fine arts teachers. Nate Blackmer was our administrator, and Al Pfeifhaus was the board member, and then we had two parents that joined us, Ed Pig, who has a child at LBES and I think LBMS, and Casey Mooney. And so it was great to have all those people. Our job was to follow the process, the same process they did for the Spanish evaluation. And so we had to develop some outcomes, which we did in January, collect data and observed activities, analyze the data, and then make some recommendations. So as we began to think about that, technology right now is really interwoven into the fabric of our instructional learning. All our students, if you aren't aware, in our 5th grade through 8th grade currently have laptops, and we have desktops in the classrooms at LBES as well as a lab there. But we wanted to move forward with it, so when we were trying to think of our outcomes, we wanted to move forward, and we thought it would be important to tie them to the 2020 vision, which is the vision that was set as part of the strategic plan. And these are just some of the key topics as part of that 2020 vision there. And you will see those in our outcomes. This quote we thought really kind of hit our philosophy, it really captures it. Research has shown students must be able to use technology to learn content and skills so that they know how to learn, think critically, solve problems, use information, communicate, innovate, and collaborate. So all those things we thought were really important when students use technology. So we came up with 4 intended outcomes. Our first outcome is really we want our students to use the digital tools so they can participate in their own personal learning, take place and promote their responsibility for self-regulating their learning. The second one is really talking about how they learn the core concepts and how they communicate those concepts to the teachers. We really want our students to become more than just consumers of content, but also creative thinkers and creative producers of the content in varied contexts. And then our third outcome is really talking about those research skills that are so important to our students today, that they know how to research as ethical participants, and they understand it within a global society. And then our last one is, how do students understand and leverage all those communication and collaboration capabilities of technology? How can they use the communication tools to learn from teachers, students, and experts around the world? And how can they use these digital tools to collaborate with other students locally and globally to creatively solve some problems? Our next goal then was to come up with some outcome data. So we actually surveyed our teachers. We had 80 teachers that completed the survey, so that's about 90% of our staff. And our topics on those surveys were, how do the teachers use technology for direct instruction? Then how do the teachers ask the students to use technology, both on a routine and for project? And then how would they like the students? If everything was in perfect order, if we had all the technology they needed and all the professional development and everything, what would they like them to do? We also gathered some qualitative data through some focus groups. We had a representative from the technology committee meet with each of the grade level teams. And we then came up with a list of technology activities based on the daily, weekly, monthly, and projects, how they might have used that. And for the board members, if you notice at the bottom, the survey data is in Appendix B, and the qualitative data is in Appendix C. We also had to gather some information about our current hardware. And so we came together with what is our list of our current hardware, how old is it, as well as all the applications. We also revised our technology scope and sequence, kind of updated it based on what our outcomes were. And we also did a financial analysis of the current program. Though I will note in the financial analysis that it does not include the recommendation we're bringing forth this evening for the hardware or the professional development, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So as we analyze the data, looking at our first outcome, this is new to us. Self-directed learning is one of the initiatives that came out of this 2020 vision. And this was something new, so we're just getting started, so it is going to be a goal for improvement because it's just beginning. But we do have students, our teachers in grades 2nd through 8th grade looking at goal setting. But our 6th grade in particular chose to use Compass Learning, which is an online program for the students, which ties to their MAP scores to try and improve it as goal setting for the students. Use Compass Learning to move forward to hopefully increase your MAP score. We also, teachers for years, have helped the students manage using technology. There's on the middle school webpage, there's the homework hotline that's updated daily. They also on the school server have a place where students can get handouts or they can have digital drop boxes. But those are always a little bit awkward. We've always, since the beginning of the laptop program, wanted to find some classroom management tool. So this year, this spring, we actually have 2 7th grade teachers piloting 2 programs. One's called Gaggle. It does cost $5 per student, but it allows them to have digital drop boxes, digital storage lockers, a discussion board area for the class, and it's also nice because it has this collaborative word processing where you could have several students typing at one time and sharing the document. Helps a lot with those group projects that we know we always love when you're trying to get all the kids together. But this is really a great management tool, and what we really liked about it is the fact that the teacher has full control over it. Everything that's goes on there, the teacher has full control over it. The other one we're looking at is free, so we are comparing the two, and Brian DeYoung is doing that in his science class, and that one's called Edmodo. It doesn't have quite all the features, but at the end we're going to compare and see which one best meets our curricular need and our financial needs. And then the last year we're really looking at is self-reflection. This is an important component of being self-directed, and blogs are a great way for students to do some self-reflecting. So we're just starting on this to get some of our 7th, 8th grade special education students, because it's a small group with their teacher, to try doing some blogging about their learning process and how they're feeling about their learning process to help move it along and hopefully then extend that out to other grades. For our second outcome, we were really looking at the content. And we asked the teachers, how are you using how are you using your laptops for delivering content? And we found out that they are using it daily, either for creation of content or delivery of content. We also looked at the students. How are they asking students to use technology to learn? And you can see we have a list of websites, online videos, interactive websites, a whole slew of different things that teachers use. At the middle school, of course, they use it more often because they have the laptops available to them all the time, but they do use these also at the elementary building. And then we have on the right a whole list of online tools that they use to reinforce their learning. Compass Learning, Extra Math, Fast Math. We have Book Flicks where the students can read books online or have it read to them. Brain Pop. The kindergartners have some iPads that they use all the time to reinforce their learning of letters and numbers and sounds, and World Math Day. We also, continuing with outcome number 2, we wanted to look at how the students then show their learning. And as you would expect, 100% of our students in our school, K through 8, use word processing to show their learning. We also know that all our students in 3rd through 8th grade use multimedia products to show their learning, at least once in the year, if not multiple times. And this year, something that was really nice is because our current 5th graders have laptops from last year's 8th graders, which was a much larger class. So we had some additional laptops, and we kind of used those, put them in a cart, and we used them with our 1st through 4th graders, and they have gotten quite a bit of use this year. We used them in 4th grade for our multi-intelligence week. We used them in 3rd grade for a Google Lip trip. They're being used all the time for this investigation time that's going on at the elementary school. 1st graders are using it for researching now, so they've been really an invaluable tool for us. The one goal in this outcome is that we really want to be able to align our technology and our curriculum to our 2020, meaning we want to make sure that we're using the technology to really move forward, move beyond just knowing the content, but really asking our children to think critically and do some problem solving within that structure. And so also to help them be able to learn to transfer their learning to new situations. So really dig deeper with the content, and the technology can enable us to do that. The next one is really when we analyze this is that research piece. And we found every single grade level in the school does a research project every year. Every single grade uses online databases, like the kindergartens use Pebble Go, which is a simple online information system about animals, and they often all use internet sites. Our students all create some sort of multimedia project for it. Even our K and our 1 and our 2, they may be a whole group project or maybe a whole class project, but they all have a little bit of experience doing a multimedia presentation based on the research. Some goals for improvement is we really need to instruct our students on how to find relevant and reliable websites, particularly 4th grade and up. We also need to instruct on copyright and plagiarism, be a little more systematic about it. We don't do a lot of research that requires the kids to go out and find a lot of data. Kind of like your scientific, they certainly do for their science experiments, but within a whole research process. We don't really do that a lot, and there are some opportunities we should look at that are available out there and online for us. They do use spreadsheets and charts some, but usually it's taking a chart that someone else made. We'd like to see them creating their own charts and their own spreadsheets within their research. But probably the most important one, again, that we want to look at is we really need to evaluate whether our research projects are requiring our students to really employ the knowledge they gain through the research process to solve problems or answer deep, complex kind of questions, not just spit back the information they read in the book or online. Really think about it a little bit more. So we need to think and ask ourselves, are we doing that within our research projects? And certainly the technology, again, can assist with all of that. Our last goal was with the outcome was for communication and collaboration. So you'll see on the left side, we used lots of different tools for the students to communicate what they've learned. Word processing, multimedia, graphical organizers, blogs, iMovies, GarageBand, all those things the students use to tell us what they've learned. They also work collaboratively. Often they do some file sharing in the 5th through 8th grade where they share files with each other through the drop boxes. They do voice threads, which are an online collaborative tool where multiple people can comment and work together on a project. We've done that a lot in the French and the Spanish classes. They've done that in the language arts class in 6th grade. We're going to do that in the science class starting this week, actually, in 6th grade also. And then Wiki, which is it's a web page, but it's something that multiple people can then write on. So we've used that extensively in our 6th through 8th grade also. And then, of course, we are looking to pilot this Gaggle Edmodo, which would allow the students to very easily collaborate together, because our teachers can actually form groups and say, you guys are going to work together in a group for this period of time. So that's another tool we're looking at. Some goals for improvement in the area of this. We would like to use our technology more to communicate with experts. There are Skype, there are chats. It would be great for the teachers to set that up so students can actually talk to experts around the world when they're studying a particular topic. We'd also like to find ways easier for students to communicate with their teachers and their peers. Of course, we want them to do face-to-face. That's most important. But when that's not possible, there are some other things, as we mentioned before, that Gaggle or that Edmodo would give us some flexibility with that. And then we also want to help our students use technology to collaborate with each other, to work together, to improve their learning, because learning is very social in nature. We did ask our teachers about barriers. What were some of the barriers they face with technology? In K through 8, all the teachers said we need more professional development. And the key with professional development is it can't be, we'll do a course in the summer, and then I'll use it again in March. Because the reality is if you don't use it, you tend to lose it. And so it's important that it's just in time and that it's aligned with what they're going to do in the classroom. To teach them a program that they end up not using is not useful to them. So it's really important that it's really aligned with their curriculum, and that really goes with the 21st century skills, which is part of our 2020 vision. It really all needs to be aligned together, and we need to provide that just in time. And I'll talk a little bit more about some suggestions we have for that in a minute. In our K-4 area and for our P and Fine Arts and Spanish, K2 and 3-4 really felt we didn't have enough support this year in the lab. This year, in the past, we've always had someone in the lab full-time, an assistant, to just help them out, because when you have little kids, you need lots of hands to help. And so not having that this year full-time or on really a regular basis was kind of a detriment. We also, in our 3-4, found, they need more access to technology. They were ones that used those extra laptops a lot. They're like, can you bring me some laptops now? They really, when they do projects, like they're doing state reports and biographies and things, they need access to it. And they can't always fit it within their schedule to go down to the lab. And then our fine arts, they don't really have access to technology. They do have in their classroom projectors, and I should say our music teacher does have an interactive whiteboard, but they don't have computers for students to use, and so that's what they're reflecting there. Our PE, they do have iPods in there that they use as part of their fitness program that they just started this year, which is actually going pretty well. They are using those iPods quite a bit. In our multi-age in 5th grade, their biggest barrier was the short battery life. We unfortunately got some batteries that were not the quality we had hoped, and so we ran into some issues with the battery life. Again, the laptops are old, so they were 4 years old, and sometimes the reliability was an issue. Also may have had to do with the battery life. And then again, they were concerned about the availability of tech supports. In our middle school, again, sometimes it's a short battery life or students forgetting to charge their laptops. And then the last one really refers to, we have a program on their laptops that blocks them while they're at home so they can't get to inappropriate sites. Unfortunately, it sometimes blocks them a little too much, so we are working on trying to solve that problem because it sometimes blocks them from things we need them to get to at school. So we're still working on that. So what are our recommendations? Well, for our first outcome, the self-directed learning, we're suggesting to either implement Gaggle or Edmodo after the pilot is over, and we've done some analysis of that. Increase the use of blogs for self-reflection. increase our use of Pearson and Form, which is our data warehouse, to facilitate goal setting, and then to provide some professional development time to focus on these self-directed skills. We have done, which I don't know if Mary Jane or Corinne are going to talk about later, about the study groups at the school.
Oh, Eleanor, yes.
Okay. But we do have the study groups going on at the both the buildings, looking at self-directed, but we need more time to kind of get the teachers focusing on that. Another recommendation is, for our second outcome, is to promote the use of Atomic Learning, which is an online video library for any application, basically, you can imagine, that they're tutorials that both our teachers and our students and parents are able to access. We are just getting started with that. We just got it this spring through a grant, but we want to promote that a little bit more. We are also suggesting that we replace our 5-year-old teacher laptops and the 4-year-old student laptops, and then to continue providing laptops for 5th through 8th graders and provide access to carts of laptops, some of our older ones, for our 1st through 4th graders, and then continue funding applications and software as we have in the past. Additionally, we also think it's important that for next year they actually schedule the lab time for the K through 4th grades. It was kind of a first come, first served basis this year, and that didn't work out very well. To provide additional technology assistance at LBES, to contract for an enhanced network support person. This is because the last 2 years, the person, our network manager, had really done all the priming building work as we image all our laptops, and that is kind of an intricate process, and so we need somebody in here that really knows what they're doing for that piece, and that would be a short term, just during the summer. And then during the school year, have ongoing network support as needed, so we would contract with somebody for that piece. And then also to provide some funds for summer deployment, so that might be either one of our tech assistants to help some in the summer, or it might be a college student also. And then continue looking for PTO or Alliance to help us with some of the hardware and software needs that we would have. In terms of staffing recommendations, I just thought this might help you understand a little bit more. So in the ideal world right now, our tech assistant at LBMS does about 60% tech and 40% library, and at LBMS that works pretty well, and she can solve about 60% of the problems at the school. For most of the time when people come, over half the time she can fix that. We would like to have that same option at LBES, somebody who could help there, be that first line of defense, kind of that, that tier one that's just going to help right away and hopefully solve 60% of the problems, and then move on to that 30% would be our district technician, who right now also repairs all the hardware, and then finally to contract a network manager who would then take care of those things that neither of them, that 10% that no one else could do. That would also allow me time to work more one-on-one with those teachers and give us more contact time for me with our students and teachers. And finally, for the research, we would also like to provide professional development for our information literacy group that started this year. We started looking at our information literacy, but we only got so far. We'd like to have more time for them to meet and complete kind of a scope and sequence, and then align all our research projects throughout the district kind of with that scope and sequence and with the 2020. And we do have Title II funds that are available to us through June that we can use for that professional development, so those funds are already in place. And then for communication, one of the key things, again, is to provide that professional development for our teachers to analyze their current units, their current curriculum through the lens of the 2020. And again, we were looking to use some of those Title II funds this summer for professional development, and I think, Dr. Hendrickson, you're working on that piece right now. And then continue funding online collaborative tools and continue researching what other tools are out there. Hopefully some of them free would be nice. The next thing is our recommendations for the hardware. So we are proposing that we replace the 6th grade laptops. So we would buy 122. That's more than the students we currently have, but we need some for move-ins, and then you need some For spares, if a student's laptop is not functioning, we hand them another one. So we need a few extras that. We also are proposing that we purchase laptops for our teacher, replace those 5-year-old laptops. The AppleCare is the warranty, and we only get parts on that because our technician can fix everything. The bags for our students, and then those batteries are for those older laptops so we can still use them, and for our 5th grade students and for our 1st through 4th grade students.
And Lori, just to clarify, that current 6th grade or going into
Going into
6th
6th grade, because they don't have, our current 6th graders will take theirs on to 7th grade, and the 7th graders will take it on to 8th grade.
Is our current 5th grade the first year that has
They have the
hand-me-downs?
oldest ones,
okay.
right, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think when this program was first put together, we anticipated that hopefully we could get them for 4 years.
Right,
And these laptops, I know because my son was a 6th grade student, so the kids who started using these laptops will be sophomores
Right.
in the high school
Right.
When we replace
yeah.
them. So that's
And
about
still
what we
will.
thought would
We'll
happen.
still be using them in our 1st through 4th. We're going to
Right.
get as much life out of them as we can, but, yeah, that would be.
And are these bags the same bags we currently have now that you're
Yes,
recommending?
Yes, they are. We talked to the teachers about that, and they preferred those larger bags.
They just don't hold up. Ours are, I mean, mine are falling apart, my kids. So-
Are they?
Yeah.
The strap seems
You have to
to
look
fail.
at, yeah. I hadn't, you know what, I will have to ask Vicki about that more, if we have, you know, but they hadn't said anything that was a real issue.
Okay, well, we'll get to this later.
So just to review real quickly the recommendations, that for professional development, we allow the group to get together or teachers to align their curriculum to 2020. We also let that information literacy committee meet, and that's using those Title II grants. That we provide some additional technical assistance at LBES. We contract for a network manager. We replace the laptops. And then the last piece here is that we should really create some sort of evaluation tool. And the 4 things, as I thought a lot about this, how do you evaluate technology? Because you really can't honestly say, well, we're going to expect scores to go up, because there are too many other pieces of that could be influencing that. So how do we really look at this as a tool and say, are we getting our money's worth? We are spending a lot of money on that. And I think one of the things is you look, how much time are the teachers using those laptops? Are the students using the laptops? And we did evaluate that in this, through this process. How are they using the laptops? And what purpose? And is it the purpose we want it? And we started to do that within this process. The 2 areas that we probably should try to do for next year is to look at the quality of the products that the students do. Are they doing those products? Are they getting that rich, deep understanding? And are we asking our students to dig deeper and using that technology to show that? I think we're starting there, but we need to move forward with that more. And then evaluate our student engagement. I honestly feel, but I can't, that's my own feeling, is that I think when I look at kids using technology, they're excited. Now, first they're always excited because it's cool, you know, it's a laptop or whatever. But I think, you know, that wears off after a while. Are they excited about the content? Are they excited about what they're creating? Are they excited about their learning process? That's what we really need to look at. And does the technology help with that? Is that facilitating that process? That's something that I would certainly say I would need administrative help on, but I think that is something, another way we could evaluate whether this is a good tool for us or not. And those are citations of different places we researched. But the last thing I just want to mention is that we are trying to be better about posting what the students are doing. So both on LBES and LBMS, we have a page called Student Spotlight where we're highlighting some of the projects that students are doing. So I really would encourage people to go there and look and see what the students are doing to get a better understanding. How are they using technology? How are they learning within our school district? And if you come next month, I believe the enrichment team will also be doing a little presentation, so you'll hear and actually see more of the products the students are doing. I think I'm finished.
Thank you, Lori.
Any other questions for Lori before we let her sit down?
I have a few questions. I just want to say thank you. This is really helpful, I think, for those people who don't see how it's used on a daily basis, maybe whose kids aren't currently in the one-to-one initiative, to see what's going on. But I do have a couple of questions, just broad stroke questions, because like Al and I have been involved with the technology going back to sort of the whole progression with Eric Grenier and how your job has evolved. And I'm so happy that you're where we've wanted you to be, which is in the curricular integration of technology. And I hope that you continue to have support enough to go where your strengths and passion are to integrating the alignment of the curriculum with the 2020 vision, 21st century learning skills, and the use of any kind of technology in the classrooms. And I really, encourage you to continue doing that. And I just want to make sure that the technology assistants, Vicki and potentially one at LBES, are qualified so that you're not leaving your strength to do another of your strengths where we would not necessarily, we're not getting the most of you. So I really hope that we can find that qualified person to help you. And I was also wondering if we've considered a volunteer option for some of that in the lab, maybe a PTO, I'm just throwing this out, but I'm just thinking out loud in terms of people that might want to be able to help with that, the younger children who you say kind of need help just kind of getting onto their computers. I'm not sure what that exact need is, but something to look at before, spending more money.
Are you
Just-
volunteering for that?
No, I'm not very techie,
Just-
so I have
okay.
lots of problems with my computer. so I'm
And we
not-
have.
But you have time. You'll
We
have
have
time.
looked at that in the past, and that is always a possibility. We would need a commitment because there are a lot of things to learn, and so that would be something we'd really have to have a commitment from people to,
Okay.
follow through with. But that's always a possibility.
It's not a drop-in kind of a
Right,
volunteer
yeah,
position.
yeah, it would have to be, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Administration's going to have a discussion about personnel and technology needs, and that very shortly,
Okay.
to figure out what we're going to do
Great.
for next year.
Great, thank you. That was my question.
Other questions? Lori, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, on to our next agenda item, communications. The District 65 Board of Education encourages and welcomes public comments and questions in this section of our meeting. If you are going to address the board, we ask that you begin by stating your name and address. Please limit your comments and questions to 5 minutes. A member of the board will serve as timekeeper. The board will not immediately respond or react to your comments. We appreciate the time you took to prepare your comments and come to this meeting. We commit to listening to you. We need time to process your comments and follow up as indicated. Please do not make any negative comments towards any staff. If you have any negative feedback you would like to provide to the board, please contact a member of the board and we will invite you to a closed session. Again, thank you for your time and attention to these things. If anyone would like to address the board, and I know we have some folks tonight, I ask that we have a member of the board serve as the volunteer timekeeper. Eric has his watch already out. Thank you, Eric. All right, so this time we will open it up to public comments.
Janet?
Please feel free to come forward.
One at a time.
That was my fault.
My name is William Miner. I live at 552 Sunrise Avenue. I've been a member of the Lake Bluff Village, an inhabitant with my family for 40-plus years. Ironically, I am a new iPad user, so watching the technology program was informative to me. I do hope that technology does not replace English skills and proficiency and mathematical thought, which I believe are very, very important and maybe have been shoved aside. My wife is a retired teacher at Libertyville High School of Technology, and my daughter attended Lake Bluff School. So we're here. We want to say goodbye to Corinne and Eric, who are two of our special friends, and I want to welcome the new board members, and I got a chance to say hello to Shelly. But I remind you all that you face very difficult challenges and difficult decisions. I think you're facing, as a board and the superintendent, an environment that is one of tough times and partisan-type bickering. You represent the entire village, and I want to remind you that it's the entire village rather than vocal persons with special interests. One issue that's particularly perplexing to me is the save provision within the current contract. Legality is a key issue. You must deal with it as a board and the superintendent, I think, decisively and quickly, because I believe that that's going to create a lot of concern within the village. I think it's the responsibility of the superintendent and his staff and principals to administer taxpayer funds in a transparent manner, and I don't believe that that has occurred to date. I may be wrong on this, and I'll let you decide that with your legal representatives. It's not the Teachers' Council, which is i.e. the union, but it's the superintendent to make those decisions. Rhetorically, you know, why, and I ask this in a rhetorical sense, not for debate tonight, is why are those funds, which are approximately 24% of our taxpayer dollar, administered by the union? I don't know that I've taken my 5 minutes, but I want to thank you all very much for your services, and suggest maybe that you watch the Waiting for Superman. I think it's a great, great film, and I think you would all get something from it. But thanks again for your services.
Thank you.
I'm Janet Nelson. I live at 328 Crescent Drive. And good evening, and thank you for allowing visitors to have an opportunity to speak here. I am a great supporter of the Lake Bluff schools. I realize the vital importance of providing the best education possible, delivered by excellent teachers and within good financial practices. One of the best parts of a democracy is this opportunity to present individual views to an elected body, such as you on this board, you who represent the taxpayers. We defend that right of free speech and also are able to respectfully disagree with opinions that are offered. Last month, several speakers came forward with concerns regarding Lake Bluff Elementary School. Now, I may not have agreed with what I was hearing, but I listened both as a retired educator and as a property taxpayer. Well, I was actually shocked into action when a board member stated that it was necessary to address the class size concern immediately because the community has spoken. I've been part of this community for 49 years. And immediately I thought of the other 80% of the residents, those who pay property taxes but don't have children in school. You hadn't heard from us, although we were very courted when you needed to pass the building referendum. My husband and I truly enjoy the advantages of living in Lake Bluff, and therefore are willing to pay the high property taxes associated with that privilege. School District 65 has the third highest tax rate of any entity in Shield Township, and you receive 42% of all of the property tax dollars collected. The other 58% of those tax dollars is divided between all of the rest of Lake Bluff's taxing bodies: the Village of Lake Bluff, the Public Library, the Park District, the high school, the mosquito abatement people, and all of the others. So you, the elected board, are the trustees of the school district's funds. We count on you to be fiscally responsible, to make good financial decisions for the long term. In the past 2 years, you have done an excellent job of reducing administrative expenditures, holding the line on other costs, and therefore increasing the district's reserve funds. Currently, you are in negotiations with the Lake Bluff Teachers Council. 1995, the board and the Lake Bluff Teachers Council agreed to a contract that allowed the Board of Education, negotiated that the Board of Education to literally turn over 60% of the education fund to be placed in the council pool of money and allow that group to determine the salary scale, the benefits package, and some bonuses for the teachers. With few changes, that 15-year-old contract has held. Your decision to sunset that contract a year ahead of time and to enter contract negotiations this year was an excellent choice. In all, it appears that you have received some good advice. Currently, I am told that the education fund is $12.3 million. So when we're talking about 60%, we're talking about $7.4 million that would be placed in the council pool if that contract stands. It is of particular interest that any dollars left over in that pool from year to year go to a council fund and are not returned to the aggregate of Board of Education funds. Currently, the amount in the council pool of leftover dollars is $3 million. This means that the board has a minimum, if any, control of how those funds may be used. $3 million is a large sum of money. It is totaled into the board's reserve and fund reports, but there is a very gray area as to whether the board can actually access those dollars. The council interprets the contract as not allowing the board to access those dollars. And this is just one of several conditions in that contract that work to the detriment of school finances.
Janet, you need to wrap it up.
May I have another
Yeah.
paragraph? Thank you. I'm talking more slowly than when I practiced. School finances are your prime responsibility. It isn't as exciting nor as noteworthy as the great temptation for board members. That's the micromanagement of school operations. But we do look to you to make wise decisions regarding the money with which you are entrusted. During negotiations, the Teachers' Council should be heavily involved in the determination of salary scales, their benefits, incentives to prove the delivery of education. Good teachers deserve to be well paid. However, they should never be handed monies that come through property taxes. Those dollars are to be overseen by an elected board. I strongly urge you to discontinue the SAVE program. The SAVE contract is unacceptable, it's improper, it's intolerable, and it's indefensible. So thank you for listening, and once again, thank all of you for the time that you've committed to being board members. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Janet.
Okay, any other questions or comments from any visitors? Okay, we will move on to the next section, which is reports. Kate, if we could have you give the PTO report.
Hello. This is the PTO report. So on March 19th, the PTO held our fundraiser, and we are finally tabulating the numbers. The fundraiser was called Watch Us Grow, and we sold 292 tickets. We had 269 people in attendance. We still have a few dollars to come in, but we raised about $31,000. So it was very successful. A little bit down from last year, but still a very good result. We're now getting ready to work with the principals at both middle school and the elementary school to disperse those funds, and we're looking forward to that. The big change this year was that we used the web store to sell tickets as well as for the checkout. It was a huge success. We had 67 people use the web store checkout. We had 22 people still use credit cards, and so we're really hoping to move away from taking anyone's credit card numbers, and so that was been great. And I think we have almost everyone checked out on the web store. There's a few people still waiting to finish their processing. But it was a huge benefit too for our people working checkout. It was a much easier process. And I think too the feedback that we got from the attendees was that it was nice to not have to worry about that night, that they could go home and do it a couple days later. This week at both schools, as you know, we're doing teacher appreciation next week, the whole week long, and those days are shared with PTO as well as the district, doing different things each day for the teachers. For enrichment at the elementary school this Thursday, we have the, they call it the Dome Assembly. It's an astronomy assembly. We also have on May 10th the Time Travelers, where the kids go down to downtown Lake Bluff and learn about Lake Bluff history. The rain date for that is May 12th. At the middle school, we have the Sounds of Brazil coming on May 6th, and that will wrap up our enrichment program for the year. We're currently reevaluating our enrichment program and making plans and budgeting for next year, so we're looking for feedback on any of those programs and welcome that. Food Day at elementary school, we are trying out 2 new foods. Mac and cheese was well received. We tried that last week. And hamburgers, we're trying, I think, on May 24th. And those are being looked at as possible options for our PTO Friday lunches. At the middle school, we are considering dropping the PTO Pizza Fridays. It's not very profitable, and it's tough to get volunteers to come work that. So we'll be looking at other ways to raise funds at the middle school. And right now the middle school is working on the graduation preparations as well. And some things that are not related to PTO, but I just wanted to make announcements on. The 3rd through 5th graders are having an art show on May 7th at the elementary school. And then there's also a book fair May 24th and 25th in hopes to get some good books in the kids' hands for the summer. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate.
Hey, Dr. Asplund, Superintendent Report.
Thank you. As I'm sure many of you have noticed, if you've driven on the east side of town, we now have 2-way traffic in front of Mr. Blackmer's building over there at the Lake Bluff Middle School, as we have a large construction fence surrounding East School. And that will be up for the rest of the school year and into the summer. So far, so good on the traffic patterns. We continue to monitor that to make sure that it's safe, but so far, it's gone very well. I'd also like to fold into the strategic plan report, the other part of my report. Thank you to Terry Carney and to all the administrators in working on the new concept of the balanced scorecard, which we'll be delivering the first iteration of that to the new Board of Education on May 19th. And that balanced scorecard will incorporate different metrics that we can measure our effectiveness in the following areas. 2020 vision, curriculum and assessment is one area, instruction and staff development is another area, and finance and facilities. So going forward, we hope to put that onto the website at some point, hopefully in the relatively near future once we've worked out some of the kinks. But we feel we've gotten a great start on it and are anxious to show it to the board on May 19th.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Henriksen.
Really, the staff development report tonight is going to be about what whole faculty study groups is, because we started this in November, but you know what, I really didn't explain too much about it. It's been evolving, and I think we're at a point now where it may be beneficial to define it. So I've described it a little bit here for you, but just in a summary, I would say whole faculty study groups involves every member of the faculty in small study groups, 6 or less, on topics chosen by the schools, the administration, the teachers. In this case, we began using the 2020 vision and self-directed learning, self-directed student learning as our topic. And so we asked the teachers to form groups around questions that they had. And one of the handouts there are the various questions that the teachers came up with through December when we were forming our teams. And then January through now, twice a month at the faculty meetings, Nate Blackmer and Katie Williams have been generous enough to give about half of their faculty meeting time to these small groups focused on how we can help students become more self-directed. And this is, I guess, the enrichment team and I have been kind of overseeing and helping and supporting the teachers in this. It's been a new process for all of us because staff meetings in the past have been sharing of information. You know, what's coming up, here's a conference somebody went to, here's a piece of information everybody can learn from. But in this new model now, all of the faculty members, all the teachers are collaboratively learning together around an area that we feel that's important. So in other words, instead of just having a few dedicated half days or early releases throughout the year for staff development is directed at every faculty meeting for a portion of the time. And it's been, I think, a very good learning process for our teachers to go through because it's self-directed in itself. So it's been, well, where are we going with this? And there have been questions because it's new. But I think when we share what we've learned, May 11th, Nate's group over at the middle school is going to share what they've learned and what they'd like to do. May 25th, Katie Williams' group at the elementary is going to share what they've learned and what they'd like to do with their learning. I think we're going to find that it's been a good process for all of us. We look ahead to using this same model in our staff development time in faculty meetings to further our 2020 vision. So we'll make decisions about that as we go forward. But that's what whole faculty study groups are, and I've been personally very pleased with the leadership and innovation of our teachers. Thank you.
Andy, thank you. Thanks, Andy. Okay, President report, I do not have one, so we'll move on to standing committees. 2020 vision.
Yeah, Andy just gave a pretty good overview of what's been going on there. Mary Jane and I did take the opportunity to meet with Andy and Buffy and Francis on the enrichment team last week, and we were really impressed with some of the specific content we were hearing and the ideas coming out of the whole faculty study group. It excited us, and in fact, we're each going to take opportunity in the near future just to visit and listen in and see and hear what's going on and get a firsthand account of that. So that part's moving along, and then the larger 2020 team, which is about 15, 20 people, something like that, is going to be meeting next week. No, May 18. Okay, 2 or 3 weeks out. I'm calendar challenged if anybody hasn't learned that yet, but so that's moving along too. So.
Andy, just before you leave, in case I have a question for Al about this, or MJ, where are we at this point with the 2020 vision being integrated into our K-8 curricular goals? Like, we had talked about in the fall, that alignment, and Lori referenced a piece of the curriculum being technology and where it was integrating and going to continue working towards being more fully integrated and aligned with the 2020 vision. But I'm just curious, in terms of where we started and where are we now? And
well, the title is 2020, and that's our goal, to be developing children with the skills, those 21st century learning by the year 2020. This is going to be a process for us. As we attack each of the curriculum, we take on this lens now of, well, how is this more collaborative? How is this more engaging? Where are the critical thinking skills coming through in this? Where is the incorporation of technology? Those are the questions that we will use as we revise each curriculum. I think our big goal this year has been twofold. First, we created the 2020 vision document, and there's a tri-district meeting coming up, and I think it's going to be approved by all 3 districts, I hope. So that's now our guiding platform. That was one accomplishment. And I think the second is the whole faculty study group vehicle for helping our teachers innovate together, study together, and not just bring in a consultant to say, this is what 21st century learning is, go forth. And that's exciting, but this is really a grassroots movement that we've begun. So I hope that on May 11th and May 25th we hear some exciting things. I hope that in August, when we roll this out again and say, should we continue with self-directed learning, or should we pick different tenets of the 2020 vision framework? And how would we like to reform our study groups to make a difference for our students. It's
No, I understand. I guess what I'm saying, I think it's really helpful just for people that are curious about
Yeah.
this to understand that it's a lens at
Yes.
which we're looking at curricular revision. And to date, the curricular vision that we've put on this lens is the world languages.
Yes.
Correct? That was,
That's the piece that we're working on
that's
now.
the piece that we're working on right now.
As well as we're working on K-5 writing, and we just had a meeting today on K-5 writing. So these are the two things that we're currently working on.
And I know that we're piloting some new math programs, so is math the next one to roll out with this lens, or have we not determined that yet?
That's a proposal that Dr. Asplin is coming to the board with as far as what should be next. Certainly, we're involved in a 2-year pilot project for bridges, and there isn't any more Math 2020 curriculum that I think than bridges because of the depth of thinking that if we choose bridges in a year from now, it'll be an easy sell to say this is very 2020.
And to answer your question, we just did have a meeting about that, and we felt that the Bridges program needed another year for that pilot. The next program, to absolutely answer your question, the next program would be K-8 writing. We did some work on K-5 writing, but the 6 through 8 will be folded into that then next. That's our recommendation, that for next year, the big focus will be K-8 writing.
Okay, thank you.
And where are we piloting bridges? That's current
Fourth and fifth
Multi-
grade.
fifth multi-age, so we'll then have 2 years when those fourth graders become fifth graders to watch those kids.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
To answer your question too, I was going to say one exciting thing that happened in that meeting was we realized that this 2020 thing is a huge process, and the teachers have realized what a huge process it is and haven't given up. They've plugged away at finding the way to tackle these questions within self-directed learning, and I think that, at least the way Buffy and Francis described it, is it's been very exciting to figure out the process by which to tackle the stuff. So.
Right, I guess another thing to just keep in mind is, as we talk about 21st century learning skills, we're not throwing out the basics that we were referred to earlier this evening.
Absolutely.
The reading, the writing, all of the components that we consider our core curricular concepts continue to be addressed and incorporated as they reflect 21st century learners.
Exactly.
But I think that piece is important to continue to get out to the public, is that the basic, we'll call them the 3 R's, are, finding their way, and we're not just getting rid of them to replace them with something new. And it's not like we're continuously reinventing the wheel, but that's why I think that this piece of looking through the lens at our curriculum as it exists and all the great things that we are doing that are already in alignment with collaboration and critical thinking skills and the self-directed learner, that we continue to communicate those out to
I think
the
that's an
public.
excellent point, and I guess the way I look at it, 21st century learning, all the tenets of that are ways for us to make the content more memorable and engaging for kids. Not to take it away, but really to help them remember it and use it better than they ever have.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. NSSED, MJ.
NSSED did meet this month. Work continues on this year's budget. One of the current discussions is revolving around what the tuition may be for member districts next year. There is discussion about keeping it at its current rate, or perhaps a 3% or a 6% raise in the tuition. So that's something that's being discussed in light of the negotiations going on with that teacher contract and some other things. One exciting thing that has happened in terms of the Finance Committee for NSSED, Marilyn Harlow, who is retiring from the District 115 Board, has been a member of that committee, so we had representation on the Finance Committee. Happily, Julie Cooley, Dr. Julie Cooley, who is Director of Special Services for Districts 67 and 115, has accepted a position on that Finance Committee. So I think she's going to bring a very good representation for our 3 districts, plus a very good view to that board. Lastly, we had a second parent meeting revolving around the topic of our NSSED membership. That was last week. Dr. Asplin was there and Dr. Griffiths was there, along with the special ed directors. Dr. Wirtz was there, and Dr. Cooley, Ann Dunn, and Steve Johnson were all there. It was a very effective meeting, I think. Karen Noonan, who is the Director of Programs at NSSED, was there. I think it was very reassuring to parents to hear that we are very much working together on budgets from our end and their end to try to come to some common ground about how we might go forward cooperatively. So I think that everybody left that meeting thinking that we are much closer together than we were 6 or 8 months ago. So it was a positive meeting, some questions asked and answered, and we will move forward. Karen Noonan was very reassuring, I think, to parents that we are working together on the issue of the budget and the NSSED budget, and also as we do bring some of our kids back into district, because we feel that quality of life issues for many of our kids is to have them here in their own community, that NSSED is very supportive in that. So it was a good meeting. Great.
Thank you. Finance and Facilities Committee, Terry and Eric.
Well, we met last week on Monday, and the lion's share of the time that we spent together was covering the technology presentation that Lori went through so well this evening for the rest of the audience. And later today, we'll be bringing forward a proposal to replace the teachers' laptops as well as the student laptops, one-year investment there for those. And then we also spent some time talking about the disposition of the mural, which I will let Eric sort of fill the community into where we are with the mural that came out of the e-school.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. I was just going to add a little bit to what you said. One thing the Finance and Facilities Committee did work on with Lori, and Lori gave a much longer presentation than what we did tonight, but containing a lot of options. And that's really how this is supposed to work. And we looked and evaluated those options. The good thing about these discussions is we're also talking a lot now about how are our students benefiting from this technology. I think she mentioned that. And in that context, how are changes in technologies going forward going to potentially impact our program? And a lot of the options were, how do we go about finding out how these technologies are working, and are there some things that we can do in the continuum of our current technology that will enable us to be more effective, more cost-effective for the district, because we don't want to just throw money at something. So that's what the Finance Facility Committee does together, and then that all got summed up, and that's what she presented tonight. Yeah, the other piece was the mural. We're looking at a variety of options of taking this painting, which was Marguerite Kreutzberg, is that the artist, the Lake Bluff artist who painted the Marquette and Marquette and Joliet, right, landing on the Lake Bluff beach. This was painted in 1926. There was some renovation done to this about 5 years ago, and now we are looking at installing it in the library of the new elementary school. But there are a lot of options in terms of what we can do to make sure that that is properly transferred, and some restoration, more restoration that needs is done without breaking the bank. We've got a very high estimate, close to $20,000, and decided that that was not something that we were going to do. We found a lot of other options that we're looking at right now. But the goal is to get that mural put back up as soon as possible, and not to put it into storage and kick that can down the road.
And I just have a question. When you met with Lori in the Finance and Facilities about the technology options, were there options discussed in terms of other vehicles of this type of portable technology?
Yes.
In terms of, I mean, I know other districts use different, smaller,
Right.
whether it's an iPad or these netbooks, notebooks.
Yep.
I'm just curious what kind of a discussion was had.
Well, the debate is around, Lori presented, here are the technologies, here's the kind of testing that we think that we need to do, and really the discussion is how do we test that properly and sufficiently to know that that technology is going to be better and that it's going to be more cost-effective. And really, a couple ways you go at it is to throw a bunch of this out there and see what happens. And I think what we did as a group is decided that we're going to put together a more detailed plan on how we go about testing the various technologies, and what results are we looking for, what goals are we looking to achieve with that. And we want to spend a little bit more time on how those tests are developed, so that we can then buy some of those technologies and try them out in the classroom.
you. Shared services, we did not meet. Strategic plan, anything more, Jen?
That was the balanced scorecard for
Okay.
my.
Green team? Okay, social committee.
Social Committee did not meet, but does have plans to honor the retiring board members very soon.
Can I ask a question? With the new board being in the audience tonight, are we going to have a reassignment in terms of new names for committees? Like the Health and Wellness Committee, we haven't given a report, and I've been serving on it. Eric Wagner's been serving on it. I was on the physical education side, and Eric was on the nutrition side. And we haven't had an opportunity to give a report because it really hasn't been a lot of board involvement with those groups. But I'm just curious, I don't want that to be something that we don't continue to be involved in. I did meet with several of the people that have been putting in a lot of time and hard work into it over the last couple of months to get updated on where we are going forward. So I just want to make sure that we continue to, I don't know how we want to, the logistics of that, but we seem to not have an opportunity currently in the standing committees to report on that, other than, I guess I could say something in new business. Okay, so just something to throw out there.
Okay. Okay, on to action items. Personnel recommendations being our first. I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel recommendations as per the attachment.
Second.
Okay, if we could have an overview of those, John.
Sure. We have one leave of absence for maternity for Susanna Corto at Lake Bluff Middle School. That would start October 6th of next year through next school year's termination. And the flexible schedule for maternity leave for Eileen Shearhart, the Lake Bluff Elementary School kindergarten teacher, who would take various days off throughout the year. Katie Williams and I have gone over this many, many times. We checked with legal to make sure there weren't any TRS implications, and there are not. And we feel that her proposal, considering kindergarten, is the better proposal for parents to feel like she will be in the classroom much more than if she took a typical 12-week maternity leave.
Now, on that, when students are placed in that class, will those parents be notified before the school year? And if they want to opt out of that environment, will they have, or arrangement, will they have the ability to, and how will that work?
Well, yes, and we've spoken with Eileen about that on several different occasions, and we want to make sure that, one, that there is one dedicated, almost co-teacher, I mean, I hate to call her a sub almost, but that would be in that classroom on the days when Eileen is not there, so that the students aren't having, the sub of the week kind of issue. And she Eileen felt very strongly that she could explain this to the parents who would be assigned to her room and would have time to talk to them about this. And we would then, of course, create some, opportunity for parents to have dialogue with Eileen and the new principal, with Shelly. Regarding that issue, and Katie will facilitate that as much as she can too prior to her leaving. So they feel like this is the best, that parents will feel more comfortable with this than having somebody that's a different teacher for 12 weeks and then this teacher for, we feel, and I, as a parent of a current kindergarten student, I would feel that way. I mean, I think that that's a much more comforting for the child to know that teacher would be in there lots more than they would be in a typical maternity leave.
And what the proposal is 3 days with her, 2 to 3 days depending on.
As the year goes along, right.
And then 2 to 3 days a week with this permanent sub, for lack of a better term.
For lack of a better term, yes.
Going to one, I think.
Right, it weans its way down.
Okay.
So towards the end of the year, the longer it is from the birth of the child, the more Eileen would be at school.
And I guess my concern would be, the timing of notifying the parents. Typically, we get class notifications right before school starts, right before we meet the teacher. If I, as a parent, had a concern with that, am I going to have a day, 2 days before school starts?
Right. Well, yes, that there are, it's supposed to be built in. Obviously, we're not there yet, so I'll stop short of guaranteeing it. But it's supposed to be built in so that there's a little bit more time ahead of time so that can get done. Especially after you hear our recommendations for class size, there will be maybe some opportunities there too with capping the class size and explaining that process too, that maybe that interaction will allow us some more opportunities to speak with parents about the current situation. And Eileen's not here. I should have asked her. She told me there were numerous, and I don't remember the exact number, of repeat parents that in this one that she's had before, so she'd already spoken to them about it, just in the event that it was approved.
John, do I recall correctly that a couple years ago, Eileen was one of the teachers that shared a kindergarten classroom, is that correct?
Yeah, she and Mandy Noble shared one with this current second grades when they were in kindergarten, so 2 years ago. So that's all of the personnel.
Any other questions or discussions? Okay, Terry, roll call vote, please.
Al Pfeifhaus?
Yes.
Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Eric Renee?
Yes.
Kim Burke?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Corinne Torkelson?
Yes.
Okay. Next action item, employment of the elementary principal.
I move that the Board of Education approves a contract with Shelly Overman to serve as a principal of Lake Bluff Elementary School from July 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2014, as presented.
Discussion on that or questions?
Thanks. Yeah, we did get that contract. That looks like what we expected.
Okay, Terry, roll call, please.
Kim Burke?
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady?
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Al Pfeifhaus?
Yes.
Eric Renee?
Yes.
Corinne Torkelson?
Yes.
Eric Wagner?
Yes.
Okay. Next action item, approval of technology purchase.
I move that the Board of Education approves the Apple quote in the amount of $234,228.06 for purchasing technology items as per the attachment.
Second.
Okay, discussion on this item.
I still have a question, which is, based on what I asked about your discussion with Lori in the Finance Committee
Right.
meeting. You talked about alternative potential products, but right now, it would appear that we're discussing specific 122 laptops for the
Right.
incoming sixth grade and 90 laptops, MacBook Pros for the teachers. So that discussion has already happened in terms of
Well-
alternative tools? I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, why do you keep investing in laptops? Well, I think at this point, the presentation Lori gave and the discussion we have, and help out with this too, Terry, we're not ready to make a jump to a new technology, but what we did discuss was, what are the technology options, and what do we need to do to test these technologies in a setting that will give us enough information to be able to, at some point, make some sort of decision on the next round of laptops as they come out. Do we want to continue with those, or do we want to change any technology?
That decision apparently won't be for 4 or 5 years, because that's what we're seeing as the life.
Well, let's just
No.
clarify. We have 4 sets of laptops out there for the grades, right? So
Right.
they roll off every year. So every year you have a new decision to make, whether you replace the
The
laptop.
student laptop,
Yeah,
not the
right.
teacher.
Not the
Okay,
teachers.
Right.
The teachers are 5 years old.
Yeah.
We have really limited opportunity
Right.
to replace those
Okay.
in kind.
Okay.
That's what they're used to. But as far as student devices, whether it's the current laptop or an iPad or something else, that we could do that every year, because every year we're making a new
It'll
investment to
roll in.
replace.
All right.
Because what we're doing today is really just replacing old technology, right? It's 5 years old for the teachers, and it's 4 years old for the students. And we have reliability issues that we have to address. And you may remember last year, the Teachers Council asked us to replace the laptops. We said we'd wait a year. And we
Correct.
can't wait any longer.
Right, no, that, I
And
understand.
we don't have any, as Eric alluded to, we don't have any viable alternatives today other than what they have today, what they're comfortable using, because there hasn't been a sufficient evaluation done to say something's better
Okay.
and more cost-effective.
Question is, how do we evaluate, and what goals are we looking to achieve? So we don't just throw them out there. And Lori is going to be able to come back with basically, a design of experiment that tells us what we need to know, whether that technology is right or not.
Did I hear correctly, too, that there were several options presented to the Finance Committee, and it was honed and crafted to the
That's
one that
right.
we're
I
seeing
mean,
today?
the options were more expansive relative to replacing more earlier, and we said we didn't want to do that yet.
Right.
So,
For that very
For
point.
that reason, okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
This may seem like a silly question, but our technology committee is comfortable with what we have.
It was a really thorough process that Lori led them through. More thorough, I think, than I've seen since we started the laptop program, and it was time. Periodically, you want to do a thorough review. The committee well, had several teachers, as well as a couple of community members, parents, some staff. And after all the research is done and they started talking about the equipment, they actually worked very hard to come up with 3 proposals, 3 different levels, and there were substantial differences. You know, they identified, you know, if we had all the money that we needed, what would we want? And they put that together, and then Lori said, okay, we don't have all the money we need, what are we going to sacrifice? Not in those words. And they pared it down considerably and honed in on what they felt was really good. And then she said, okay, now let's pare it down again. And they did a 3rd round in an effort to get to what did we really need to at least continue doing what we're doing today and build on that if we don't have funds to do more. And what we see before us now is really that very pared down 3rd option, knowing that there's some desire to do some experimenting with iPads and some other devices, but the feeling was we want to put together a little better plan than we had time to put together for that. You know, they may come back, or we may come back mid-year and say, we know what we want to do now by way of a pilot program or whatever, and can we start something mid-year on a very small scale? That may come, but the feeling was we just weren't certain enough of exactly what we wanted to do to move forward with that kind of a thing just yet. At the same time, we didn't want to pull the rug out from under what we've built upon for the last 4 years, and so this is really allowing us to continue that.
Let me add one last thing, too. Regardless of the technology that we do employ, the really important thing that came through in our presentation, and Lori hit upon it as well, is professional development to make sure we actually give the teachers the opportunity to really learn how to best optimize this technology in the classroom, as well as the technical support. And so those 2 components shouldn't be lost upon anybody, because, again, you can invest whatever you want in the technology, but without those 2 support items, it's probably a poor investment.
And it's interesting, that comes right back around to your point, Corinne, about the 2020 vision and coordinating the curriculum and the staff development and the whole 9 yards. And
I think that's what,
and
that's
that's
one of the
exactly
highlights
what
of
the committee came back around to.
Lori's presentation was that in-time training, and we've been talking about that for a couple of years now, and how important that is. So when it comes to planning the 2011-2012 professional development, that's really what I'm hearing from the teachers who talk to me, and that's what we want to keep in mind, as well as what I addressed earlier, making sure whoever that support staff person is knows what they're doing and is experienced and has technical background to be in that position.
We know it's not you.
It's not me. Thank you. That's.
Yeah, before you vote, I just want to say, too, apart from this, so everybody out there understands, we gave this assignment to Lori around Christmas time. And for those of you at home, you saw a brief report. The first report was 2 hours long to the administrative team. And we picked it apart and really kind of rammed through it and really kind of made any corrections that we thought needed to be made before it went to the finance and facilities team. And I know that Nate did a great job. I know that Al did a great job, but I am so very impressed with everything Lori did that it was unbelievable. And the fact that it was either today or yesterday, I walk in the library and she's in there helping second graders work on a blog. I mean, there must be 3 of her.
Yes.
That it was unbelievably impressive considering everything else she does. So thank you so much for all the work.
That's why I just don't want to burn her out. That's my concern.
We really enjoyed tearing that apart. We really did.
That was an excellent presentation, Lori.
It really was incredibly thorough, and if you get a chance to go back to that PDF and look at some of those appendices and see the kind of research that was done, and it...
Well, and the staff did a fantastic job, too. You know, I was in and out of some of those meetings and watching them debate and discuss and really take this to heart. It was, if we did nothing, it was worth it because of just the discussion that was held about all this. So they did a fantastic job, and Lori deserves a great deal of thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Let me just throw this out there. Would we lose anything if we didn't vote on this tonight and we put it to next month? Or would we have other information that would come forward? Not being part of technology, not being part of finance and facilities is a huge
Timing's probably the question, and Lori's
investment.
probably
Is it?
the only person in a position to answer that timing in terms of being prepared for next year.
Okay. Can you go to the microphone, please?
Ideally, if we would want to purchase soon, and I'm not purchase, but we wouldn't want delivery until school's out. But once school's out, you have to get rolling right away, and we really need to kind of know what are we going to be purchasing, what do we have to prepare for, and it takes us quite a while to really get all those pieces together. So it would be ideal if you could decide this evening. Yes. And can I just make one comment to Corinne real quickly? We did, in our committee meeting, look at a lot of different options available to us, and we discussed, should we do a different platform? We looked at everything, we threw it out there, and we had a lot of discussion, and really came back to right now, we knew this technology, we knew how it worked. There are some other options that are just changing so rapidly, and we do want to look at those. There's some great potential for, decreasing the amount we're spending and still get the great value. But we weren't quite ready because there's a lot of pieces to that, and you really have to look to make sure, because we want our students to use it fully, to be creators of content and not just consumers, and so we want to balance all those things.
And I think to Kim's point, now listening tonight to the presentation and to the comments from the people who are more involved, I'm not hearing that a month is going to make a difference. But I think it sounds like these investigations are going to be occurring during the school year for testing and evaluating, but nothing's going to change between now and next board meeting. In my opinion, from what I'm hearing.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Can we please look at the bags, though?
Pardon?
Can we please look at the bags? They do fall apart. Yeah. We're spending all this money on computers. We want to have something that, yeah.
Well, we, not to take this off another tangent, but we did talk about the whole concept of having kids bring them home to charge them and so forth and so on, and everything that goes along with that, and we had a lengthy discussion about that at the committee as well, and we asked Lori and the team to think about that, what would be a better option for a lot of reasons, not to mention just ergonomics and,
Right.
liability and you name it, so.
Yeah, backs.
Good.
Well, we haven't taken completely off the burner, have we, the idea of the wellness committee looking at this in terms of textbooks and our computers? I know we've had a rough time getting our textbooks all on computer. We haven't.
Right, yeah.
But we're still hoping that'll happen at some point.
Yes, and that was something the teachers, the majority of the middle school teachers really would like to have online textbooks, but the publishers don't all make it that way. Additionally, that's the other reason why we would love to have one of these online management tools, because the students necessarily wouldn't have to have those binders where they keep all their information in. So that would eliminate something else from the backpack. But to Terry's point, we did talk about there might be some other options, and I can explore that with Nate and the rest of our committee on, would the kids have to take them home every evening at the middle school? Currently, in 5th grade, they don't. That's optional. They keep those in the rooms. There would just be some logistical things, and there might be some cost for carts if we would choose to have them be able to keep them at school sometimes.
The charging issue is a big issue.
Yeah, the
Yes.
charging is big, and you'd have to
Yeah.
charge it into a cart that would be
Right.
locked, and so there would be some additional costs if we would choose to do that for those carts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're looking into that, because I know that the whole issue of the weight of the backpacks continues to be something that is of concern.
Okay. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Any other discussion? Okay. Terry, roll call, please.
Al Pfeifhaus,
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes.
Eric Grenier,
Yes.
Kim Burke,
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady,
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes, Corinne Turkles.
Yes.
Okay. Next action item, policy approval. I move that the Board of Education approves the revision to policies, administrative procedures, and exhibits as per the attachment.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on these? These are the ones that were presented to
You
us
were the ones
last
that
month?
presented last month.
Okay. I can do voice vote on this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Next action item, approval of the disposal of surplus property. Anyone?
I move that the Board of Education approves the disposal, or to dispose of a piano at the Lake Bluff Elementary School.
Second.
Okay, someone could fill us in on this one. Microphone.
There was an old piano that was unclaimed by anyone last year. It's not in great shape. We offered it to many schools. No one wanted it, so we need to unload it.
Do we need a
So
roll
by-
call?
No, you can voice
Okay.
By unloaded, what does that mean? We're going to literally throw it away, or we're going to roll it out in the street and someone's going to take it? I mean,
Trash
what's-
day.
We'll find a way to dispose of it.
Okay.
Do you want it?
Well, no, I mean, there may be someone in the community that wants to make a go at it, so that's this being noticed that it's available.
Contact Jane.
Mrs. Williams.
Mrs. Williams. Mrs. Williams.
Contact Mrs. Williams.
And bring your own truck.
And how much time do we
I
have?
would say quickly.
Contact Mrs. Williams. She's
First come, first served.
And what, a few weeks and then it's out of here? Or what?
Contact Mrs. Williams.
Okay.
As soon as possible.
She knows more about it than any of us.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next action item, acknowledgement of service to retiring board members.
I move that the Board of Education approves a resolution commending Corinne Torkelson, Eric Grenier, and Kim Burke for their years of service to the children and community of Lake Bluff, District 65.
Second.
And we have some resolutions that I have been chosen to present. Corinne Torkelson, if you could approach. Whereas Corinne Torkelson has served the community of Lake Bluff since 2006 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time she served as Board Vice President, as well as a member of the Northern Suburban Education District Governing Board, Shared Services Committee, Personnel Committee, Tri-Board Advisory, Technology Committee, District Curriculum Committee, Teacher Contract Language Review, Alliance for Excellence, E-School Task Force, Strategic Planning Committee, PTO Representative, and whereas through her leadership, the Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65, and whereas Corinne Torkelson has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which she has been involved, now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff District 65, County of Lake, and State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 hereby recognizes Corinne Torkelson for her many significant contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff and acknowledges, with great regret, her completion of term as member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Eric Grenier, if you could approach. Whereas Eric Grenier has served the community of Lake Bluff since April 2003 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time he served as board president and board secretary, as well as a member of the Communications Committee, Personnel Committee, Tri-Board Advisory, Finance and Facilities Committee, Illinois Association of School Boards, Teacher Contract Language Review, E-School Task Force Committee, and whereas through his leadership, the Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65, and whereas Eric Grenier has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which he has been involved, now therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff District 65, County of Lake, and State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 hereby recognizes Eric Grenier for his many contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff and acknowledges with great regret his completion of term as member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education. Thank you, Eric. And Kim Burke, if you could approach. Whereas Kim Burke has served the community of Lake Bluff since April 2007 as a member of the Board of Education, during which time she served as board president, as well as a member of the Northern Suburban Education District Governing Board, Green Team, Shared Services Committee, Personnel Committee, Tri-Board Advisory, Technology Committee, Illinois Association of School Boards, Teacher Contract Language Review, PTO Representative, and whereas through her leadership, The Board of Education has addressed many issues of significance and implemented many decisions and programs for the benefit of the children of District 65. And whereas Kim Burke has consistently upheld the highest standards of board membership and has shared uncommon perception, courage, and common sense to the many board deliberations in which she has been involved, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lake Bluff District 65, County of Lake, State of Illinois, that the Board of Education of Lake Bluff School District 65 hereby recognizes Kim Burke for her many significant contributions to the children and community of Lake Bluff and acknowledges with great regret her completion of term as a member of the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, MJ. Okay, next action item. Possible action as the result of executive session on the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district. I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution regarding Matthew D. Saucedo authorizing notice of charges and dismissal as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Terry, roll call, please.
Al Pfeifos.
Yes.
Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Eric Grenier.
Yes.
Kim Burke.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Corinne Torkelson.
Yes.
Next action item, consent agenda. I move to approve the following items as listed on the consent agenda and displayed on the screen.
Second?
Okay, any discussion or questions?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Terry, roll call, please.
Kim Burke.
Yes.
Mary Jane Brady.
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes. Corinne Torkelson.
Yes.
Eric Grenier.
Yes.
Eric Wagner.
Yes.
Al Pfeifos.
Okay. New business items. Proposed 2011-2012 board meeting calendar. John, if you could give us an overview on that.
This is a departure from previous calendars, and as you can see in your attached proposed schedule here, we would be going to a committee of the whole concept for many months, not every month, but that can, it doesn't have to, but that can take the place of other standing committees, and those can all be reported at those committee of the whole meetings. And those would be on this schedule reflective of the Thursday prior to the Tuesday board meeting. So for next month, for instance, the regular board meeting schedule would remain the same, but the committee of the whole would be the preceding Thursday when the board packet would be presented as well. So you would see May 19th, the committee of the whole, May 24th, regular meeting. June follows the same pattern. July, we do not have a regular board meeting. We're recommending a board retreat on July 30th. In August, we would have 2 meetings, September, October, and then in November and December, when we move the meetings up a week for holidays, we don't have committee of the whole. That's the recommended schedule. And then January through June, we would follow the committee of the whole and regular meeting structure again.
Bless you.
So bless you, Nate. So you would have 9 months of committee of the whole meetings and 11 months of regular meetings, and then in July, you would have the board retreat, which would also serve as your regular meeting.
Can I just make a comment in case people are wondering? The term board retreat is not to be taken as it sounds. Board retreats generally happen in the school board office or some other rented space in Lake Bluff or
You were in Lake
Forest.
Forest College last year, so, yeah. we're not-
Eric, you left out Saturday morning from 8 until 1.
That's correct.
Yes.
That was the last one, and
Yes.
that was a good one.
And do we have places, committee of the whole would be posted like a regular board meeting?
Committee of the whole would be
Probably.
posted, it would be open, there would be no action taken,
Okay.
unless there was some emergent need, and then we would list that there would be action taken. There can be, there just generally is not. And that would take place, it would be recommended to take place at the district office, probably downstairs where there's more room. And then the regular meetings, of course, would still be here.
And I also recommend that Liz sends out a separate email with these dates, so just in case we discard this board package, we have that separately, and to include the new board members or future board members.
absolutely.
John, did you say we'd have our board packets by the committee of the whole?
We would present them at the committee of the whole. You would get them there, and we would go through them at the, because now you get them on Friday.
Correct.
This would be a day ahead of that.
And do we anticipate, even in those scheduled 9 months of meetings, that there might be some we might not need a committee of the whole?
Certainly, you can choose to cancel or, add one in a month or whatever, but yes, absolutely, there are times when you can certainly just elect not to have those meetings. Thank you, yeah.
Any other new business anyone wants to present? Corinne?
Well, health and wellness, I just want to put it out there that they are continuing to work hard at targeting key concepts to educate the Lake Bluff Elementary School staff and students and the Lake Bluff Middle School staff and students. Right now, they've been working on a Water Your Brain campaign with an emphasis on hydration. They're going to be moving into other topics that have to do with the importance of sleep and the sleep research that has been going on for many years on the importance of that, and educating with small bits of information on a weekly basis. Through the website, they have a link, so it's just helpful information for parents, students, teachers, and they're going to continue with nutrition and physical education, and it's something that I'll be involved in after going off the board, so you might see me over there. So that's all I just want to share with you. And I think, Eric, there's going to be some kind of a meeting before the end of the school year in terms of an update of where the committee is moving, because there are some changes in the membership of that as well. That's my new business.
Okay. Any other new business anyone wants to present? Okay, moving on to old business. Okay, kindergarten enrollment policy guidelines.
I will take that. We had originally planned for Katie Williams to present, but Katie unfortunately had a family issue that she is out of town, so the baton has been passed to me, and I would invite Corinne and MJ to fill in any gaps that I may have. What you see in front of you, board members, is basically a synopsis of the discussion that we had last Friday, and stemming from the issue of last month, and just things that we've been working through in regards to class size and space utilization. And this is our first blush at trying to put together a plan of action for future administration, future board, in perpetuity going forward to work through these problems that will certainly come up from time to time. And so what we're looking at here in a brief is looking at recommending in January, we would recommend that the board would adopt certain guidelines towards optimal class size. In January, they can review it. It wouldn't be every year, let's create and reinvent the wheel. Let's just say, hey, does this still work for us? And so we would come out in these brackets. K2 would have one stated guideline, a range, and 3-5 would have another range, and middle school would have a separate range. And then the following factors would be of prime concern: the learning environment, meaning the individual student needs and how those affect large group instruction and individual instruction, available building space, the fiscal impact, both short and long term. And we identified 3 guiding principles that we would want to hold dear, that the early childhood program should still be located at Lake Bluff Elementary School, so that we feel that those students are best served in our own building. That's where they will be. We would like to keep them there. The district values smaller class sizes while recognizing responsibility to keep property tax rates as low as possible, and that classroom space priority is given to grade level classes. So what that means is we are willing to, obviously it's great if everybody has their own class, but if specials have to go on a cart, that's something that we're willing to give on if that's something we have to give on. These are where we're trying to hold dear. So then in January and February, typically now you have kindergarten registration. Now, here's that we will start to broadcast so long as we have the blessing of the board. Katie Williams brought this up, recommended it. We thought it was a brilliant idea. We would recommend a maximum class size of 19 per full-day sections of kindergarten, and that we would cap those. And once 57 students have been enrolled in all-day kindergarten, we would say that there are no more all-day sections. However, we would create a waiting list, and if we got to 17 additional students committed to full-day, given all the other factors, if there's space, if all the other factors, we would entertain then filling another class because the tuition would support that teacher. So then that means that if you have 3 sections right now of 19, that's 57 students, all others coming in after that would go to half day. And so the one thing that I'm looking for from the board for tonight is just an approval. There's no formal process, it's just the blessing. Do we have the approval to advertise our half-time kindergarten position to go to full-time? We don't have to ever approve it, it's just can we post it? And that's what I want to see from the board tonight, that gives us some flexibility. That we'd like to post it internally is really what we're looking at. So I guess I want to hear, is that okay if we post it internally and then look at our numbers to see who would be interested in going to that position?
So John, you're looking for consensus?
Yeah,
All
I mean,
need is
you don't have to,
consensus.
it's not a motion or a second, it's just, do we have the board's blessing to post an internal position? Right now, that's a half-time position. We've talked about last month, moving that half-time to a full position. More than likely now, with this idea here going forward, we would have 2 sections of half-day kindergarten. So that would still take up 4 classrooms. So, it's a more cost-effective, it's a fair, equitable manner of allocating our resources. Everybody knows up front. As of Friday, I don't know as of today, but as of Friday, we still had space available for the all-day, so we still wouldn't be locking anybody out. We have 55. Okay.
Full day?
So I knew it. Okay, thank you. I knew 53 on Friday, so.
And the trending is roughly consistent with that, too, for the kindergarten incoming classes. There hasn't been a huge population surge in recent years.
No, where we're finding the bump is kindergarten to first, and so we're trying to, affect for that as well.
And then there'd always be the issue if we get a lot of late arrivals who think they want full day, if we get the waiting list full enough, then,
And there's space.
yeah, and there's space, then we could
Right.
do that. too, so.
Right. So, January and February, we do the kindergarten registration. I'm sure by today, everybody turned in their registration, because everybody knows today was the deadline. So I'm sure you're all done, right? I shouldn't say it, I don't know if I'm done.
I handed mine in today.
We did see quite a few people today. So thank you for coming in. May through August, we have the class list and the roster is completed and refined. And then May through April, once one individual classroom exceeds the pre-stated acceptable class size range, a meeting will be called. This meeting must meet within 1 week of its calling. The purpose of the meeting will be to consider action to be taken, if any, to alleviate larger enrollment issue. And the positions in attendance, we're recommending the superintendent, the Lake Bluff Elementary School principal, 1 member of the Board of Education, 1 person who is a board-appointed community liaison, and 2 to 3 classroom teachers, who would sit and discuss the issues above: the fiscal impact, the building space, the budget, the long-term, short-term fiscal impact, and all those. And then a report would be made back to the Board of Education in a larger sense to see if there was any action that needed to be taken.
Right, and I just want to go back to a little bit of the history. It's not something that has been a quick process that's been come up. We've had a meeting on Friday to discuss it, but going back to August of 2010, there were concerns raised about future, how we were going to move forward with policy or guiding principles for future action. And then in November, Katie Williams and Eileen Shearhart, and I want to make sure I give credit to all the kindergarten teachers were involved in kind of coming together, troubleshooting, discussing, and then coming up with a formal presentation which involved some of the components that we were discussing today. So there's been a lot of thought gone into, and time that's gone into what Dr. Asplin is talking about tonight. So I just want to make sure that people understand that this isn't something that we just, pulled out in the last couple of weeks.
There is another thing I would add, based on the context for some of the discussion last month, was that the event that we had in 2010 at the beginning of the year, where we had that surge of kindergarten students, in the discussion at last month's meeting, and maybe we should have raised this point, but so far, and even today, and this plan fits in with this as well, there has been no initiative by this Board of Education or by this administration to specifically raise class sizes since I've been on the board in 2003. There has been no elimination of teaching positions that I'm aware of to raise class size. The only reason we've eliminated teaching positions is because head count has come down. It was 1,130 students, or 1,134 at a point when I was on this board, and we're now 940?
965, I believe,
965.
somewhere within a few of that.
So this is what's driven that, and I think The very complex situation of getting kindergarten started, not knowing how many could be half-day or full-day people coming in. It gets very complicated at the beginning of the year. We had 1 year last year where it was a particularly low head count size, and then in 2010 it was particularly high, but none of those last year or this year were out of the statistical variation that I've seen since I've been on the board. So what I'm hoping, and it looks like this is heading for that, is we're not changing our class size strategy, we're clarifying it. We're also clarifying what do we do when we have situations like occurred at the beginning of the kindergarten year this year, because we didn't have that policy, and that was what we said we were going to address, not to say, well, we're going to raise class size or lower class size. My intent would be that the class sizes stay where we've had them, because I feel pretty good about them and have since I've been on the board. So.
Corinne brought up the report that we all received that the kindergarten teachers put together. What are we doing with those other elements that aren't included in here? Like one of the things was staggering tuition payments, like a preschool model would have. Are we looking at those aspects?
From the prepayment?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of having it all due by, what is it? I should know this, June 1st?
Or yeah, I think you have to make a down payment when you
Right.
register.
Are those things that
Significant.
we're considering, or is that ended
Why
up
not?
somewhere?
Yeah, we need to get into that a little bit in more depth, and that's something that we need to attach to this as we go
Yeah.
forward. So that would be the next step, and that's a great point.
Because that would maybe eliminate some of the late registries.
Exactly.
And it will allow for better planning up front. Yeah.
Right, and this was just a first kind of,
Right. Right.
first step in talking about.
Jumping off
Yeah,
point.
Yeah.
exactly. So the entire committee has not met yet. It was just a kind of getting together of what are we going to need here, what kind of people on the committee, et cetera.
And before we got too far, we wanted to make sure people were comfortable with it before we start blessing it and putting, broadcasting news out there to people, so.
When do we anticipate to have a recommendation to the board on the proposed ranges by classroom?
Well, and I think we can do that next month. I really do. I just wanted to make sure we were comfortable with that concept before we, before we start throwing them out there, so I think that's something we can absolutely do.
Yeah, I see this statement, the guiding principle, the second one, district values smaller class size will recognize a responsibility to keep property tax rates as low as possible. That's basically what we've been doing. And I'm reading that as not to make any moves overall in class size, but just to clarify what we're going to do.
Right. Yeah, no, this is really just kind of laying it out there, and so everybody can understand these are the factors that we're considering, for both internal folks and external folks. And it isn't just about kindergarten, as we say, it's about all classes.
And I would assume going forward, if there was a decision or desire to lower class size or raise class size, that the board would talk about that openly in front of the community.
Well, right, and that's the purpose of this, is that this would become a static target every January. As I said, we would have a number out there, and we would just say, okay, are we happy with where it is? Do we want to move it? Are we up, down? Here's our trends. This is our, using our balanced scorecard. Here's where we are with finances now, folks. Is it something we want to start looking at to raise it up?
I looked at all my old notes all the way back to '03, and I don't see any trends. It's just been moving along. And,
One of the difficulties of being in a small school district is you deal with these enrollment bubbles, and that does
we have
impact.
so few classes.
Right, when you have one building, and that does, it's great to be in a small school district, but that is one of the trade-offs.
Well, one thing, too, we did talk about kindergarten, but we did also talk quite a bit about first grade, because of the variety of options for kindergarten, create a situation for us where we're not always sure how many first graders we'll have, too, and there is still some fluctuation in second grade, but the biggest is in kindergarten and first, but there's a surprising amount in first.
And we
So-
also discussed and recognized that with the larger class sizes, this current kindergarten, we have to look at those ranges for how they affect, there's a domino effect. Those kindergartners next year will be first graders. So we have to look at that.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think by next month, based on the discussion that we've been having over the last several months, we should be able to certainly, as John mentioned, come up with that range. And I will be the community liaison person serving on that, so
Great.
that's something that I look forward to continuing those discussions with the history that, Eric and I have had in terms of what we've seen as sort of what's gone on. And there's not really any science to it. You just have to have those guiding principles and a range that you feel comfortable with as a board.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. Construction update.
Be brief. John reported that work has started, and it's going swimmingly so far. The frontispiece, we are going to have to store until we determine the final place for it. So we found a storage solution at a reasonable cost, right down the street from the district office. $300 a month. It'll be kept out of the elements and in a safe place. I'm still waiting for cost proposals from the contractor to crate the pieces and transport them. So still working on that. We briefly touched on the mural. I really need some direction from the board. It's been suggested that we have another group look at the mural, which is fine. We need to obtain the mural back from the Conservation Center, who's holding it for us.
Yeah, who's responsible for getting that back? Who said, did you send it down to them? Okay.
They'll bring it back to us.
Yeah.
Then my question will be, once this other group takes a look at it, if there's some more time, then
Right.
we're going to, I guess we'll put it in my office.
We're going to... No, I
Not
think
kidding.
I think the board will be faced with a decision on that. The intent is this other group is going to look at it. I think they're going to come up with something that's maybe a little less ambitious than what we saw, but still trying to achieve the main objectives of that it goes up, it's protected. It's going to be kind of low because the ceiling is only so high.
Virtually going to be from floor to ceiling.
Floor to ceiling.
So-
But that's okay. I mean, we want the kids to be up close to it, but it needs to be protected, obviously, from this sort of thing,
Hands, yeah.
and UV light and those kinds of things. So they're going to come up with that. We anticipate that'll probably be maybe 60% of what that other one is, and then the board's going to have to decide how it wants to fund that, how much by the school district, and potentially how much fundraising you may want to do. But I think the recommendation is to, as soon as possible, get it up. Get the project approved, get it forward. Maybe even, I'd suggest maybe even when the funds aren't totally finished being gathered from fundraising. That's just my personal suggestion, that if there's seeming to be enough commitment that we at least get going on it.
If you can give me the contact information of the people, I'll go to
Well, we're
I'll go
go-
to work and get proposals, and then we'll come back to the board and for further
Right.
direction on what to do.
It's Gary Lawrence Interiors. Those guys are on it. They want to help. Okay, good. And by the way, the Art Institute, we contacted the Art Institute, and they were very gracious about helping us analyze where the best approach would be. So everybody wants to see this done, but they also know they can't bankrupt the school district doing conservation work.
But so far for them to take a look at it and stuff, we don't have to expend any.
Nope.
Jane, what are we doing to minimize the disruption with the building coming down over for the students at the middle school,
Well, we're
if we can?
I see Nate staring at Jane there. He's wondering what her answer is going to be.
Well, I mean, there's not much we can do. I mean, as far as traffic, westbound traffic, truck traffic, they have specific times in the morning and the afternoon during drop-off and pickup time that they are not allowed, that's in the contract, they're not allowed to drive the trucks that way. But other than that, I mean, there's going to be noise, and
When does it actually get started?
it started now. If you drive by, you'll see the very top of the front of the building is gone. They do some salvage work inside first.
Right.
So they'll do some
I saw some
salvage.
parking lot activity.
They'll do some salvage work first, and then,
When will it really look like it's serious? Like there's dust coming up and...
I would think within the next couple of weeks. You know, like I say, they've removed the outside of the front of the building is gone now.
Well, and Jane,
So-
don't they, I mean, with the removal of that frontage piece, I mean, that's going to take...
Yeah, they've got to, yeah, I mean, they're going to be very, very careful, because,
It's fragile.
Right.
yes.
No wrecking ball until then.
Yeah, there won't be a wrecking ball, but they'll be and they'll be recycling a lot of the bricks and things like that, so,
So this is very similar to when we took down Central School.
yes, absolutely.
Anything else? Any other old business anyone has that they'd like to bring up? No? Okay.
Actually, just quickly, I think we got a really good principal candidate, and it looks like we got a lot of really good input from the community. And I was just going to also comment to people that were involved in that process. I know last month there also were some complaints about that process, but bottom line is, after the first run-through, you listened and you said that we haven't found him yet. And you went back and did another round, and it seems to have worked really well. So thanks to all in the community that helped with that. Even if you thought it was a little bit ugly, we got a really good candidate as a
Not
result.
a candidate, we've hired her.
I'm sorry, we got a good principal out of it.
Yes, yes.
So for those who thought that you didn't listen, you did. And we made changes.
That was very nice for her to come all this way tonight, too.
She's got
Yeah.
5 minutes, yeah.
There's no good way to get
No.
City to Lake Bluff.
No.
All right, next action item would be to go into closed session. I move that the Board of Education enter into closed session to discuss personnel and pending possible litigation.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are moving into closed session. Thank you.
We staying here or going downstairs? Downstairs.